Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about building trust in your business. That is very important to have trust and business together. Goodness. Now we have a guest who's going to help us really think about this in another perspective so we can shine some light on this necessity that people need in their business. So, Mike, thank you so much for coming on to my show. Let's just dive right in. When you hear the phrase building trust in business, what does that make you think about?
Oh boy, it's trust is it makes me think about. I know this is not probably a bad comparison, but it makes me think about money.
No, there's no
Be-
such thing as bad comparison in my show, so you're good.
Well, it makes me think about how we transact, right? We trade things for money,
Mhm.
and it's sort of this trustless system, right? Where if you have dollars, if you have a dollar or a $20 bill or $100 bill that somebody else recognizes, they
Yeah,
don't need to know you or trust you. If they're willing to exchange what they have for that $100 bill, that is truly a trustless transaction, right? Because it's just purely a transaction. And so on one level, to transact, to do business, you don't need trust, right? On the other hand, if you really want to build a business and you want to have something that's enduring with repeat and referral customers, then you have to really focus on trust and forget about the dollars, right? So there's
yeah,
this weird sort of tension that exists between the two to say focus on the transactions, the trust will probably not matter. Focus on the trust, and you probably have more transactions than you know what to do with. So that's, as I hear you say that, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
no, that's perfectly fine. And that makes a lot of sense because you can see people have worked with companies that have shown those two differences. You know what I mean? Where yeah, they don't care about the employees, they don't care about the customers, they don't care about anything that goes on as long as their company continues to make their quota, continue to meet those numbers. They will be perfectly fine. Turnover can be up the roof, but they don't care because there's a million born a day. You know what I mean? So like everyone's replaceable. Okay, but when you add that trust factor, a small business with trust can grow in time that people don't even realize. You know what I mean? They'd be like, "Oh, how did this happen?" Like people are just baffled by the fact that a small business can grow or just be more than what people expect it to be just by having that trust. I really do think that is something key. I mean, and you as a real estate agent, how hard is it to build trust with customers?
Yeah, well, in our, I would say I'm grateful that I'm not an agent
Oh,
because
okay.
that's the retail world that does require a lot more transactional type of thinking. And I think that could be a slippery slope for somebody that's only paid based on their work to say,
Mhm.
hey, I need to go buy groceries, or I got to pay the rent, I need to get a
Yeah.
sale. And so the expedient approach might be more of a transactional kind of approach. Our business is real estate investing. And
Oh, I
so
apologize.
we're buying assets and we're using other people's money to do it. And so
Okay.
you want to talk about high trust. It's everything we do is based in trust. And if they don't know us, if they don't like us and trust us, they're not going to give us their money. And so
Yeah,
that's the cornerstone. It's foundational to everything we do is earning that trust. And we tend to go slow.
that's
Um,
nice.
and it's I don't want to say that we don't move quickly at times, Mitzi, because we do, but it's after we have a trust relationship established. And so up
Yeah.
front we go slow. We often say go slow to now to go fast later. And that slow approach is through like an intentional getting to know these, and we're dealing mostly with families. So getting to know the families through like every Thursday we have a happy hour. And it's not the traditional, go to the bar and get drunk and show up late for dinner and upset the spouse. It's bring your family. And it's not held at the bar, it's held at our personal house.
Oh,
We're blessed to live on a lake, and so in the summertime in
oh,
particular, we can have kids out in the lake, or we can go on the boat or fishing, and the adults are all up having community and spending time together. That's one simple example of how we build that relationship of knowing and liking and eventually trusting each other. And so from there, it can kind of take on a bigger and more meaningful part of the interaction. But we have to start with going slow up front to really make sure we're connected.
Absolutely. And I thank you for correcting me. I appreciate that because I was a little confused at first, but I appreciate this correction. But I also see how investing is more important when it comes to trusting because when you have that's money, that's a part of you, that's foundation, that's your legacy, that's a lot for people, you know what I mean, to give and to invest. So when you invest in a large amount, especially, you need that trust because there's so many scammers out there. There's so many
There
people who
are.
are just trying to just come up and just use people because they feel entitled or they feel like they're owed something in the world and they don't care who they step on to get there. And it's sad. So it's
It
nice to
is.
know that there's actually true companies out there that want to have help the world grow, evolve, help the economy, help families see the opportunity of their dreams, you know what I mean? And it's so
Absolutely.
hard to like illustrate that in a world where it's so dim. So how do you illustrate trust in the beginning? I know you talked about a little bit about how you move slow, you invite them over to your home, get them acquainted, get them feel like your family because that's a great way to start. But after that point, I mean, how do you really build trust?
Yeah, great question. So maybe an example would help illustrate how we do this. This is a story of a family that is local to Omaha, a gentleman that I've known for 20 plus years. And to give you some perspective, he and I coached our daughters in second grade, and they're now both married. And we've known each other the whole time. So really a great family. And he's
Yeah.
a third generation HVAC contractor.
Okay.
So he's got a very well established business. His grandfather started it, his father ran it, and when his dad passed, he took it over. Well, now his
Okay.
son, fourth generation, is joining the business. And he came to me one day and said, "Hey, I'm working my butt off to build this business, and I'm trading my time for money, and I'm just trying to figure out how do I get ahead. I've
Yeah.
tried investing in the stock market, and I don't understand how it works. And I don't understand why one quarter it goes up and the next quarter it goes down. It doesn't really have any rhyme or reason to it." So he was asking about real estate. And I told him his name's Brad. And I said, "Brad, I'm happy to share with you all about real estate investing. It's, I think, the most transformative thing to invest in for a family because of all the benefits of, appreciation and cash flow and depreciation. So it can offset earned income. It's a really great tool, but I'm not willing to do that unless you're going to bring your family in. Because if you don't teach these guys, if you don't help them understand what it is that you're doing, when you do pass on, it's just like your HVAC business. If your son doesn't come in and take it over, when you pass on, the business is probably going to die. And real estate
Absolutely.
is not generally a passive business if you do it yourself. And because you're, taking care of tenants, you're taking care of toilets, you're taking care of termites and all the
Everything.
things,
Yeah.
right? And so it ends up being an active business. And he said, "Well, I don't want to deal with the active business. So I'm focusing on my HVAC company. I want to deal with the benefits of owning real estate, but I don't want to deal with the day-to-day operations." And that's when I said, "Hey, if you're willing to come alongside us and you can see how my family does it, I've got four kids, three of them work full time in the business."
Oh,
And so,
nice.
yeah, and our kids are similar in age. As I mentioned, our daughters played
Yeah.
basketball together. And I said, if you're willing to let your family come in and learn alongside you and watch how we do it, there's a chance that we can have you investing in deals with us and you can be truly passive. And
Mm.
so it was really just the approach of saying, I want to meet you where you're at. If you want to do an active business and start investing in real estate on your own, I'll help you do it. Just be prepared to have another job, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not prepared for that, then you might want to consider finding someone to invest with passively. And of course, because I took that collaborative approach and
Yeah.
wasn't selling him on anything and telling him what he should or shouldn't do, but just giving him information, he obviously said, "Hey, if I'm going to invest in real estate, it's going to be with you." And so he
Yeah.
has since invested in many, many deals, hundreds of thousands of dollars. His family and our family are very, very close together. And I consider them like family now because of that approach. And it's all
Mm.
really based on taking care of them first And if that approach of loving on him and taking care of his family ahead of the deals is resonant with somebody, then they'll end up most likely doing business with us. But if it's not, that's okay too, because then they can go serve themselves and go another route. But that's kind of how we view it, is not to force an agenda, but just be who we are, be authentic, educate and communicate in a way that we'd want to be educated and communicated with. And if there's
Exactly.
resonance, we get together and do a deal. If there's not, we'll still help them, but it's not going to be part of our ecosystem in investing. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
no, it makes absolutely sense. I love the example because it just shows your character is true to this. You know what I mean? Your character is very honorable to not want to just bring him along, but his whole entire family, because it starts with your relationship with with money. It starts with your understanding with money and how it can flip it, divide it, multiply it, however you want to
Yep,
go about it. You know what I mean?
yep, yep,
And when you start with the children and you bring them in and you allow them in the conversation, that's a whole different story because we're so used to putting children aside and we're like, yeah, bring them over, no problem. We have a room for the kids, or kids could go
right,
downstairs,
right.
outside, they could do their own thing. And the kids never learn what they need to learn, you know what I mean, at the moment.
I do. Yeah,
And
I
that's a
do.
beautiful way that you incorporated your family with his, and it's now like you guys just have an additional family and you extended your family out
Yes,
to a friend, to somebody that you didn't even think was going to go this far in your life. Isn't that beautiful how we have kids
it's
and you
absolutely
think
amazing.
about how like I don't want to deal with any of the parents, and then you have to deal with the parents, and then you're like, you know what? You're not a bad human being.
Let's go. Right. Yeah, let's do something
Let's
together.
exactly, let's do this life together. That is so true. That it's nice
Well,
how go ahead.
no, I apologize. I just had a
Yeah.
thought occur to me
Yeah.
that I think is relevant to what we're talking about, and it's this idea that legacy is not optional, right? So the only role that I cannot be replaced in is as a father. Somebody else can buy in and sell a real estate. Somebody else can, be the boss or be the guy that cleans the toilets. I can be replaced in all of those roles. The only role I'm
Mm,
not replaceable in is as a father. And so
mm,
what that means is when I pass on, I will leave a legacy.
no,
It's not something that is optional. It will either be a legacy of blessing and of goodwill and generosity and goodness for the future generations, or it will be one that many times the kids will want to shy away from. I don't want to be like my father. I've heard,
yeah.
and I'm sure you have many times.
Yeah.
And what I find sad, Mitzi, in our business, 100% of the properties that we purchase, when we sit
Hmm.
down and we talk to the seller, we're asking them, is there anyone in your family that could benefit from owning this real estate?
Hmm.
Because if they understand what the benefits of real estate ownership is, but if their family did understand it, no one would sell their real estate. And what breaks my heart is that so many times the seller will say something like, my kids don't want anything to do with it. In other words, they started this business, this enterprise, they built this portfolio of properties, and their family, it either was at the expense of their family or at the exclusion of their family. They didn't include them, or they actually did it to the point where the family is disappointed in them because they were so focused on it that they don't want anything to do with it. And that to me is heartbreaking. And that's why we focus on family so much in this business, because the real estate itself will have a profound effect on your family
Hmm.
only if the legacy that you leave them is one where they have been included at a minimum and maybe even participated at a level so that when they do inherit these assets, they don't want to sell them to a guy like me at a discount. They want to
Yeah.
keep it and grow it for
Well,
the next generation. There's a saying in
exactly.
America, and I don't know where it was started, but it's something like shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Have you heard this before?
I've never heard this before, and I'm from the Midwest, and usually Midwest holds those old
Yeah.
sayings true. So no, I never. What does that even mean?
Okay. So based in it's what I've learned, Mitzi, and I don't know if this is true. I'm not a researcher, but I've learned that it's true in all cultures. So like
Okay.
in China, for example, the saying is rice paddy to rice paddy in 3 generations. Or in I don't know where are potatoes at, Scotland. They say potato field to potato field in 3 generations. So shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations basically is this. The first generation buys something. The second generation builds what the first generation bought. The third generation sells it. And so by the fourth generation, they have nothing again. So they go from
Absolutely.
shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Buy, build, sell, and we start the cycle over. Well, how do you ever really create generational wealth and
Yeah,
plant a flag in your family's financial future that is going to permanently change the landscape of your family unless you're thinking about the fourth generation? We can't be
right.
planning for and thinking about what am I going to build for my kids? Not even what are we going to be able to give to our grandkids? It's going to be what are the great grandkids going to do with this? Those that we don't even know and may never meet. How do we
Yeah,
set them up for success to ensure that that shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations is not true in our own family?
right.
If we can do that, now we've really left a legacy that's powerful
It's
and one that can, and I don't know about you, and I don't want to get into all of the crazy political stuff going on and how, America is just getting more and
it's
more
okay.
complex and difficult. I don't think our kids are going to have a better and easier way
Yeah,
as time goes on. It seems like the opportunities are getting fewer and further between. It seems like there's more and more oversight and overreach in many
yeah.
cases. And so we're just trying to set up families in a way that they have as much autonomy and as much self-direction as possible. And the vehicle of real estate is just a tool to do that.
Absolutely. I can understand how to start with trust, you have to start with the heart and what's in the heart. Someone's home, someone's
Amen.
the family, you know what I mean? And
I like
when
that.
you yeah, when you speak in that way, that's the first thing I thought about. Like this man has a good heart and this man is wants to do more tenfold. It's like I don't know if you're a man of faith or what, but I feel like
Absolutely.
you are. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna freely say it, but there's a verse in Matthew's where it's a parable where they talk about the seeds that were scattered in the wind, and some were
Yes.
scattered under rose bushes, and they every time they grew, they just got cut
You
off
got
because
choked
they
off.
couldn't.
Yeah.
They got choked off, and some were eaten by birds, and some were stuck by stones, and they couldn't grow. They couldn't grasp the ground, and some landed in soil that was rich, and they were able to multiply and multiply and multiply folds beyond its measures. And I'm just like, that's my goal. You know what I mean? That's my goal at the end of the day is I want to multiply this knowledge, this wealth, this understanding, and it's about and it starts to, ugh, so tongue-tied today. It all starts with communicating. You know what I mean? Just having that
Yes.
open discussion. We always try to like provide limitations on other people, push it on other people, their limitations. But in reality, it's ours, and that we're fearful and that we're afraid and we project it on other people. But in all actuality, your child at such a young age can grasp so much because they just want everything from you. They want to
Yeah.
absorb everything from you. And that even if you're telling them this is what you need to do with your money, or this is not how you need to think about this, and this is how you need to perceive it, then growing up, it's going to stick with them. It's like the old saying is true. Teach them while they're young so that when it's old, it sticks with them. And
That's
it's true
right.
because certain things my mom said when I was younger, man, do they come to me in my mind and they're just right there. Like
Are
there's
you becoming your mother? You're turning into
mm,
your mom?
slowly. But it's funny because my mom, she says I'm turning into the grandparents because I'm wiser than her. She says so.
That's
She's
great.
like she says that I give her these looks that her grandmother would give her, and I'm just like, yeah, I feel like I have an old soul. I think just a grandma at heart.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. If someone's describing wisdom and grace to you, that's a blessing.
Exactly. So I have to ask you, do you think, since you're a man of faith, do you really think God helped you in this direction and in this path?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, all things come from him. And there's a worldly saying that I like that describes it maybe even more directly than the scripture, but it's nothing happens to us, it all happens for us. And so if I think about things happen, it's basically the difference between a victim's mindset and an abundance or a blessing mindset, right? If you're the
Yeah.
victim, oh, I got a speeding ticket and that guy was I didn't deserve it, or I got a C in the class because the teacher doesn't like me, or I don't play because the coach thinks I'm, too slow,
Yeah.
right? That's blaming and pointing fingers. And the abundance mindset, which is things happen for us, it's, well, I got that ticket and I'm grateful that I did because a mile ahead of me there was an accident. And if I didn't get that ticket, that could have been me, right? And to just be thinking about reframing what happens through this
Exactly.
perspective of gratitude and grace and appreciation. And I think that's rooted for me in a deep faith, knowing that I'm not here for me.
Yeah.
God made me for a purpose, and
Yeah.
his hands, his fingerprints are all over me. And so my job is to just say to my creator,
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm available. What do you want to use me for? And
Amen.
use me in that way. Use me in a way that honors you as the creator. Use
Mhm.
me in a way that blesses you because you designed me. It'd be like, um, imagine a flower looking at, or not a flower. Imagine something simpler. Imagine a birthday cake.
Okay.
You make a birthday cake and it comes out of the oven and it looks at you and it says, why did you make me? You can't imagine the thing that you created out of love and care for somebody that you love would ever speak back to you in a way of disrespect.
Yeah.
Like it's a silly example, but so often that's what we do is
It is.
we look at our creator and we say, what are you doing this to me for?
Yeah.
Like, why did you put me here? Instead of saying, I'm grateful to be here. I'm thankful that you did make me. Now use me as you see fit.
Yeah.
Help me to delight this person whose birthday it is and let them enjoy this cake, whatever that
Yeah.
is, right? I'm mixing analogies all over, but
You're
you get
fine.
the idea, right?
I'm keeping up with you, and I like the analogy of cake because it's funny when I know it's not funny, but it's real. It's raw. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's raw because people are doing it all the time. People have sued their parents for being born.
Isn't that
You know what I
crazy?
mean? And it baffles me because it's just like what you said. How can you be upset for living for being born? I mean,
No,
I know it's a possibility. I know the world is hard. I know it's harsh. I know it can be overwhelming. But when you're able to shift your lens, like you were talking about earlier, and just reach direct your perspective every single time that a minute passes, because we're only giving the day of the day that we're alive and awake. So why not embrace the day that you have and you're given and do something in that day to make you feel empowered, to make you feel like you said earlier, doing something for God and being his open, willing vessel so that he can get the glory, because at the end of the day, that's what we want. And what a way for you to allow God to use you in real estate investing when his goal is to multiply folds and folds and folds. And you're over here trying to help people multiply folds and folds and folds. I mean,
that's right.
Nebraska seems like they have a lot of land out there. I mean, I've never been to Nebraska and I don't really know many people of Nebraska either. So it's funny that you say that because all I can think of is just flat land. I've been to Iowa. That's as far west as I got, Iowa and Texas, that's as far west. But Iowa's just flat. You know what I mean? It doesn't really have much there. They have to go to Nebraska to go to have some fun sometimes. It's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, let's go to Nebraska to go have some fun. Like, who says that? People from Iowa. But
Right. And
but
by the way, we don't ever say let's go to Iowa to have fun. Yeah, my wife's from Iowa, so I have to give her a hard time, but no, we're it's the same people, same state basically.
Yeah, but that's so funny. So you already know the truth. So that's funny. So I have to
Yeah.
ask you, what's your medicine? What gets you zened out and back to centered?
Well, I think I have this process every morning. I call it the hour of power. And
Okay.
it
Mm.
was, well, I want to take a step back to give you some perspective as to how this came about. So many of us are trained in the world on this chronos time,
Mhm.
chronological time.
Correct.
We get up at 7, we get on the bus at 7:30, our first class is at 8, we have recess at 10, we have lunch at 11:30, we have our second recess at 2, class is out at 3, we get back on the bus, we go home, dinner's at 5.
Yeah.
And it's this chronos time. We have a spring break, we have a Christmas break, we have summer
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
We then graduate that and go to college, and we have a semester, and we have 8 semesters, and then we graduate, then we get a job. We work 40 hours, we have weekends off, we get
Yeah.
2 weeks a year off, right? This is this whole system.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a bad system. I just think that system on its own is missing a whole nother perspective. And it's what
Yeah.
I call, or what is called, not what I call, Kairos time. And Kairos time is not based on a clock, it's based on a season. An example would be it's time to go to bed, it's time to have the baby, it's time to harvest, right? Like there's no
That is
clock
very
for this
true.
stuff. It's just, it's the time is right to do it. And it was
Yeah.
this idea of I want to live less chronos and more kairos that really prompted me to start what I'm now calling this hour of power. And basically it's rooted in this idea that instead of this chronos time of work until you earn a reward, right? You
Yeah.
don't get recess until you've done your morning work. You don't get lunch until you've done your late morning work. You get your vacation after you've worked 50 weeks. And it's this paradigm of we work and earn this break.
Yeah.
Kairos time flips allows you to flip that on your head and say, instead of me earning and feeling like I got to hustle and do all these things to justify in my mind that I've earned this time off, it's flipping that on its head, saying, I'm going to start with me, not selfishly, but so that I can show up as the best version of myself. So, how do I do that? How do I make sure my bucket is completely full so that when somebody needs a drink, they can dip into my bucket and I don't even feel it because my bucket is so full? Versus my bucket's near empty and somebody tries to dip into it, I'm going to fight them. Like, don't be drinking out of my bucket. It's almost empty,
Yeah.
right? And so, how do
Yeah.
I want to show up in the world? I want to show up with a full bucket. And this hour
Mm-hmm.
of power is first thing in the morning. I get up before my feet hit the floor. I'm saying a prayer. I'm spending time with God. I get up. I do a breathing exercise. I have a regimen of vitamins that I take, and I go to the gym. And
Mm-hmm.
whether the gym is outside doing something with the weather permits here in Nebraska, it isn't always the case, or
Yeah.
it's going to the YMCA. But
Yeah.
I spend that time. Then I come home, and because I'm in the real estate business, I spend 30 minutes watching or reading some financial news to understand what's going on. And then after that hour is over,
Uh-huh.
I'd open my phone. Then I say to the world, now I'm available to actually meet you guys where you're at because I have taken time to fill my bucket. I've taken
Mm-hmm.
time to make sure that I have had the rest I need. I've given thanks. I'm grateful. My mindset is in the right spot. My body has moved. I've gotten a sweat on. I feel like I'm energized. Now I can show up as my full self. My bucket's full and I'm ready to conquer the day. So that's what I call the hour of power, that first hour of the day.
I like that. I like the hour of power. I think that's a great point for people to take home and, marinate and think about how they can implement their hour of power. Even if their hour of power is at the end of the day to shut down and close yourself off before going to bed, do whatever that you need to do, but create that hour for yourself. Everyone's style is different. That's why I loved when you said seasons because I'm a person that lives off of seasons. You know what I mean? Not seasons, but like, you know what I mean? What you said was like seasons because I feel like there's a season for love, there's a season for solitude, there's a season for selflessness, there's a season,
Yes.
even a season to be selfish. But you got to recognize what season you're in. If you're in the season where God's telling you to wait, then wait. If you're in the season where
Yeah,
God's telling you to work hard, then work hard. You know what I mean? You got to
I
know
do.
and recognize that season that you're in. So I love that point that you said. And I'm so upset that time is escaping us because I feel like I could talk to you about so many things to dabble into. And I love these type of conversations because you never
I do
know where
too.
they go, but they always go somewhere great. So I really do thank you for this time. And if anybody wants to know more about Michael and all that he has to offer the world so that you can keep on thinking, go check him out on my website. I have his photo, I have access to his website and all that he's doing so that you can keep on thinking. With that being said, y'all, bye.